webinar of the PPI4waste Interest Group. This webinar is the first in a series of activities that we are planning to offer to you as members of the group as a way of sharing information and learning a little bit more about current topics around waste management. We chose the circular economy package as our first topic because it's particularly pertinent right now, having just been released last December, and it's going to have a significant impact on public authorities, particularly with relation to waste management. The topics for this webinar, the specific presentations, have been chosen by yourselves, and we hope that you will find them both interesting and helpful. There will be some time for questions at the end of each presentation, so if you have any questions, please do just send them via a private message to the host, which is ICLE Europe Web Conference on here. My colleague Philip will then pass them on to me. If you have any difficulties, can you please also let Philip know? So he is once again ICLE Europe Web Conference. If you just send him a private message in the chat box, and then he will see what we can do to help you. We are recording this webinar, so we hope that we'll be able to share that recording on the interest group discussion group in the procurement forum over the next few days, and we'll also be uploading the 3 presentations. So I'm just going to share a very brief presentation with you myself. If I can, here we go. So just to give you some background on the PPI4waste Interest Group, this is a very broad group that is open to anyone who is interested in the procurement of innovative waste management solutions. We are organizing the group really around the interests of the members, which is all of you, and we hope that the benefits that you would gain from membership of this group is, first of all, you will be able to learn, connect, and exchange with peers from across Europe. There are exclusive interest group activities which are only offered to group members. This webinar is a good example. And we'll also make sure that you're the first to hear about any upcoming PPI4waste events. The group was launched in October, and so far we have 121 members. They're made up of procurers, suppliers, and other experts in waste management. This means that if you do have a question or would like some input from someone else who's working in a similar area, then there should be someone in the group who can help you. And one of the main ways to communicate with each other is through the discussion group on the procurement forum, which you are all invited to on joining the interest group. So anyone is welcome to post and respond on the forum. We at ICLE are here to help you with any technical problems you may have when it comes to posting in the forum, and we really want the discussion group to be useful to you. So please just do feel free to go there if you have any questions regarding your work. The next event that we're holding as part of the interest group, just to give a little plug before we start this webinar properly, is a workshop which is taking place in April in Bilbao, where we intend to bring together public procurers, suppliers, and consultants in the field of waste management from all over Europe to discuss procurement needs and showcase state-of-the-art solutions for specific areas of waste management. We're planning an interactive event, which we hope will give you the opportunity to talk about your particular areas of interest and go into them in some depth. We also have a couple of really interesting speakers in the pipeline. I believe that most of you will already have received a save the date email from my colleague Estella about this, and we'll be sending through some more detailed information in the coming weeks. So I hope to see a lot of you there. Other activities as part of the group, we are open to preparing further webinars if you feel that this one was useful. There are ongoing discussions in the procurement forum as previously discussed, and really do get in touch with us and let us know your ideas. We want this group to be shaped by its members. So thank you very much. That was just a very, very quick introduction. I'm now going to hand over to Françoise Bonnet from ACR Plus to give the first presentation, which will be on major changes to expect from the proposed directive on waste. Just to give a little introduction, Françoise Bonnet is the Secretary General of ACR Plus, the Association of Cities and Regions for Recycling and Sustainable Resource Management. She is a European law specialist and waste expert with more than 15 years experience as a consultant, and she will be taking us through the major changes in the proposed waste directive. So, Françoise, over to you. Hello, Francoise. Can you hear me?
I'm muted, you know.
Yeah? No, I'm hearing you.
Yes, I hear you, Francois. Please share your presentation with the audience. Francois, any support needed from?
I have a problem. I think we did a test before, and now.
Just go on quick start.
Yeah, well, I will.
Three dots.
Share. So I have to reload my presentation, but I did it before, so I don't understand.
Thank you ever so much.
Is it okay?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, so sorry for this little problem. So very briefly and quickly, I will give you the main modification, eventual modification, because as you know, this new waste package still has to be adopted by Council and Parliament. And it's the second version. We had another package in July 2014. So I will concentrate on mainly targets and different waste management rules, or let's say rules that have waste management impact. So the circular economy package is not only waste, but it's and not only legislative part, but also an action plan and a list of follow-up initiatives. We won't speak about the two first topic that you see, the two first document that you see on the screen, but the last one with 4 legislative proposals on waste. As I would like to put in context a little bit, because this circular economy new ID and the circular economy package is tackling much more than waste. And so within waste, you have a lot of legislation, and the new waste package concerns only mainly the three that you see here. There is the fourth one regarding the WE directive, but it's really a very small modification regarding reporting obligations. So I didn't want to mention it because there is no real impact for our webinar today. So what was the idea? Of course, it was the waste package. It was an obligation from the Commission to have an let's say assessment and to see if they had to modify or not the directive. So they had to do it. And so it's not only because they wanted to be more ambitious, but they wanted to also to see if the level and the rules were correctly implemented and well, let's say, balanced with the objective search by this legislation. But of course, the main objective is to have a more consistent EU legislation and not focusing on waste, the waste package, but globally to the circular economy package, but the completely circle of the value chain. But the waste package should be, let's say, a driver and support the circular economy package. So it has to be an instrument and a driver to help towards more circular economy. So it was really important for the Commission to touch the targets in order to boost more circularity, to tackle also the end-of-pipe solutions, so the waste treatment, in a most suitable way. So now I don't want to criticize. My job is to present you what is the purpose, but for sure, it has to be a driver towards more circular economy, this waste package. And with targets, so a robust set of medium and longer term targets, and addressing some exceptions and some facilities for member states where you have very low waste management performances, so two-speed Europe, let's say. Another very important topic is the extended producer responsibility, and within this new waste package there is a new provision more in detail, explaining and laying down more in details the different obligations regarding extended producer responsibility. And last important point is an improvement regarding reporting and statistics, because there was a lot of administrative work for the public administration in collecting data in different ways. So the Commission tried to have more consistency, and that's why there is also a little modification of the WE directive that I won't mention anymore. So concentrating on targets, it's not only foreseen in the Waste Framework Directive, but also in the Packaging Directive. They changed also the targets in the Waste Packaging Directive. So there is a global target. It's 65% of municipal waste by 2030. It means more than before, because we have a target of 50 for the time being, less than the first circular economy package. It was foreseen to have a 70% target. What does it mean for our purpose, let's say, regarding public procurement for waste management? It means that you have 35% left for the end-of-pipe solution, maximum, so you can have less, of course, also. And you need to be able to reach also this 65% recycling. So it's not only recycling plants, but also selective collection schemes, for sure. So you see here the new target for municipal waste recycling with one methodology. So in the last directive, the previous one, you had 4 methodologies in order to calculate the target. It meant that you could have completely different number considering the methodology that you had chosen. And so like that, you couldn't really benchmark properly member states between them. So the first step is to have one calculation method based on effective recycling with, as I mentioned before, little exception for 7 member states where there is less than 20% recycling for the time being with the 2013 data. And with possibility to review those targets in 2025. So you see on the slide the evolution of those targets, I mean, hopefully evolution. Linked to the recycling target, you have the landfill target laid down in the landfill directive, not in the waste framework directive, neither in the packaging directive. It means that if you combine both, you have 65% recycling target, and you have maximum by 2030, 10% landfilling as a maximum. So you still have 25% for incineration. Of course, you can also decide to have 35% incineration or energy recovery plant, but not more, and not more than 10% landfilling. An important other piece of legislation regarding the targets are the targets for the packaging. So here you have also a global target, 70% by 2030, and afterwards you have specific targets by material, by packaging material. So here you can see by different raw material considered the different targets. You can see that you have high targets foreseen for paper, glass, aluminium, ferrous, and wood, and with the overall target of 75%, and that there is a lower target for plastic. The idea of the Commission is to, of course, to see what will happen thanks to innovation, and it's more regarding recycling innovation. And so they didn't want to put a higher target for the time being, considering that it was already high, because the current situation shows that you have only around 20–22% plastics recycling. So reaching 55% by 2030 is already quite considered ambitious by them. But of course, it is quite well known that 55% target could be easily reached, because technically nearly all plastic can be recycled. So the innovation could help if there is new technologies showing that plastic recycling is good and also economically sustainable, that this target could be also increased in the future after 2025, when they should review the target maybe. So just to give you an idea of the challenge, this graph is based on the table done by Eurostat in 2014. So it means that data considered here are from 2012. So hopefully we will have some improvement not yet mentioned in this table, but you can see that we still have a lot to do. Because a lot of countries still landfill much more than 10% and recycle much less than 65%. So regarding the calculation methodology, it's really important to have only one methodology, and unfortunately, I think that we still have in the proposal two methodologies, because you have what is going into the recycling plan or what is out of your sorting plan, and it's not always the same thing, because most of the time when you have the quantity of what is entering into the recycling plan, you have a mix of municipal waste and other waste. Especially now with the new definition that the proposal gives, the new definition of municipal waste. I will come back later on that. So regarding the recycling calculation rules, three main novelties. So one single method, as I mentioned, input to the final recycling or output of sorting operation, and preparation for reuse activities and recycling of metals resulting from incineration can be taken into account in order to calculate the 65%. So just to be clear, and I don't want to comment more, but let's say the general objective of the circular economy package, and in particular the waste package, is to have a high level raw material recycling, so high level of quality recycling. But in the meantime, they consider that when you put into incineration metals, and then you can, of course, you can after the whole process, you can take it off from your plan, you can still consider them as recycling. Just, I leave you judge of that, just for maybe not a clear message that they give, but it is written like that. Regarding the reuse activities, it's interesting to see how they tried to develop those activities, I mean reuse activities. There is here, I don't know, clear, they wanted to promote those activities, and that's why they consider that you can, as member states, when you have to collect data, you can consider recycling, but also reuse activities. But they mention clearly, because they use a new definition, that you have to consider reuse activities, or let's say preparation for reuse activities through recognized bodies. So it means that, like that, of course, you can calculate easily and what is prepared for reuse, because otherwise you don't have any control. When you are, for example, in activities when it's C2C, so consumer to consumer, or through internet, you are not able to calculate how much has been reused. So that's why they mention this, that it has to pass by recognized bodies or organizations. You have a lot of these possibilities already in different municipalities across Europe, with especially the social economy industry enterprises. So for disabled people, or with a low background, education background, usually they are supported by, those activities are supported by public authorities, but not all. Simplification of the reporting and data quality, very important. And this, even if maybe for some of the stakeholders, this measure is more administrative, for a public point of view, is really important, because it's a way also to evaluate our public policies. When we have accurate data and then we can compare to each other, we can see, first of all, if from a year to another we did the correct investment and we took the suitable measure because our performances improved, and how far we are from the objective, and to compare also with the other member states. And of course, also for the Commission to see if the provisions are suitable for all member states, or should be maybe adapted for others, etc., etc. So it's really important, and they tried to improve in simplifying the reporting obligation. There are a lot of other provisions in the waste package, especially regarding new definition. For that, important to notice that there is a clear definition of municipal waste. Municipal waste means now household waste and what can be assimilated in nature, composition, and quantity to household waste. So it's narrow, let's say, the definition, the scope of municipal waste. There is a new definition for preparation for reuse, as I mentioned before, because the Commission wanted to integrate this element of recognized organization. Also for organic waste, it was precise in order to be inconsistent with other pieces of EU legislation. What I would say regarding the organic fraction, and we know that it's an important part of the waste, the quantity of waste produced, and where innovation could make the difference in waste treatment, there is no clear selective collection obligation. It's more or less, let's say, indirect, as the Commission officials say, because for them it is clear that in order to reach 65% recycling, member states will have to also implement selective collection for organic waste, otherwise they won't reach the objective. In the past package, it was clearly mentioned to have a selective collection obligation for organic waste. There is still an obligation, but if it is appropriate economically, technologically, etc., etc. So mainly member states can do what they want, but of course they have to reach the 65% recycling target, the global target. There is also a reinforcement of the provision regarding waste prevention, and the member states are obliged to have a waste prevention target, but we don't know how much and when, so it's quite a weak obligation. As I mentioned, simplified and more reliable reporting. And what is also very interesting, it is more an intention than an obligation, but it is mentioned like that. Member states has to use economic instruments to promote the waste hierarchy. So last very important point is the provision regarding general requirements for the extended producer responsibilities scheme. It was already mentioned in the last package. In the current legislation, I mean the Waste Framework Directive, current Waste Framework Directive, there is already a provision, but with no clear obligation. With this new article, there is, once a member state implements an EPR scheme, be careful, EPR scheme does not mean EPR. You can have EPR in another way than EPR schemes. But when you decide to implement an EPR scheme, member states shall ensure different elements. First, that the EPR schemes define clear roles and responsibilities, establish measurable targets regarding waste management, establish reporting systems, equal treatment and non-discrimination between actors. Waste holders should be informed about waste collection and litter prevention and incentivized to participate in separate collection. The very important, the EPR organization should also define clear coverage, geographical, product and material. And it means that also regarding the coverage, it's not only the, let's say, the operational coverage, but also the financial coverage. It is the point 4. So EPR organizations should be financially reliable with enough means to meet their obligation, and the member states should secure that there is a self-control mechanism and audit in place with full transparency of the system. Last important point, as just mentioned, the financial contribution. So as it is mentioned now, EPR schemes should be implemented in a way that there is a full cost coverage of the waste management. It means that when you put on the market a packed product, when we speak about EPR for packaging, but you know that you have also EPR for we, etc. But okay, for all kind of EPR, when you put on the market the product, the price that you give to the consumer, that you fix, should include the complete coverage of the cost for collection and treatment of the product when it becomes waste. And this should be accompanied by this modulated fee. So the fee that enter into the price should also reflect the recyclability, the durability, the sustainability of the product you put on the market. This system exists already, especially in France with packaging, with the system, the Eco-emballage system, but it's the exception more or less. And of course, if we want to use this economic instrument to boost more recyclability and in general to be more circular, this is a key element, this modulation of the eco contribution. But of course, to balance a little bit the interest, the general requirements foresees also that this financial contribution should be based on an optimized cost. It means that for municipalities and public waste managers, they don't just have to collect and treat the waste. They have also to find a way to have the most cost-efficient system. Otherwise, it's too easy for them because the producers, they just have to pay for the collection system, but they have no means to improve this system, even if it doesn't work well. So that's why it is considered that they will, with all the stakeholders involved, they have to decide an optimized price or cost of the collection and treatment cost, and to agree on that price. And afterwards, public authorities will be reimbursed with this by this agreed price, but not more. So if they spend more money to collect their waste, they won't be completely covered. And for this, it is really important to know that we know that when you have a very efficient selective collection systems, so when you can catch the purity in your waste collected, high quality of secondary raw material afterwards, it means that on the market you can sell it in a higher price. So in the balance, it costs less. So that's why it is really key to maintain, let's say, this element in order to have a balanced system where efforts are not made only from one side, but from both sides, I mean, producer and collectors. Adequate monitoring and enforcement framework. So for sure, this system should be adequately monitored by independent and audited by independent body, not linked to PROs or municipalities as such. The Commission also mentioned in the provision that they would like to have a real dialogue between stakeholders through EPR platform in order to get the improvement on board. And we know that for that also, when we speak about product and product put on the market, innovation can change the game quite easily if new technologies arise regarding especially recycling, but also to have more sustainable products. Maybe dismantling them or recycling them will be completely different with a completely different cost. So that's why a permanent dialogue is requested. That's it. It's really roughly the most important provision that should be modified in the coming months and adopted, hopefully, to be implemented in the different member states' legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Françoise. I have just received a couple of questions. I know that you have to leave, but I'm hoping that you might have the time to just answer one question. Perfect, thank you very much. So I'll go with the first one we received. I hope that's fair. Looking at the graph that you presented on the different countries and their likelihood of meeting the targets, it looks like a lot of places are not yet on track to meet the targets. And just at a municipal level, I wondered, what do you think would be the most important thing that someone working in this area could do to try and get closer to the targets at least?
I think that the most important thing is to be aware that it's not only a question of having one solution and investing in one solution that you will reach the target. You really need to have a strategy and to have a multiplicity of instruments. So it's not only infrastructures, but also rules, legal rules and economic rules, in order to all go to the same direction. And of course, it's not easy to balance and to see what would be possible, but first of all, a strategy, and not considering that the current situation is what you have to develop. It is not fixed. You can have less waste produced in the future and more recycled. So it means that you don't have to invest in big infrastructure and oversized infrastructure, because otherwise you will have difficulties to reach your recycling target. I speak especially regarding the end-of-pipe solution. If you want to reach the recycling targets, you need first to put taxes for the end-of-pipe and relevant one, useful one, not too low, so to incineration and landfilling, both, because otherwise you won't be able to reach the 65% recycling. So you need to not to oversize your infrastructure and to accompany them with legal and economic instruments in order to discourage this end-of-pipe solution. Secondly, you have also to work on let's say, the beginning of the waste treatment. It means when it is produced. So you need to work on citizens, and for that, if possible, try to have a service that you render, the collection system, as close as possible to the polluter pays principle. So this is also something that works. And when people pay only for what they produce and not, so that they can, in their pocket, they can see that when they produce less waste, or at least that they produce less residual waste, and that they can sort, and they sort correctly, they are rewarded. So this is also another important point. And last point, I mentioned the EPR schemes. I think that it is a way to divide and to share the responsibilities. Producers put on the market products that become waste at the end of their life. And so it's a way for municipalities to be paid by the producer, and at the end by the consumer. We have to be clear. In order to be able to finance those services. Fantastic. So for me, it is key that you need more than one instrument and more than one infrastructure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for such an interesting presentation, Françoise. That's really kind of you. So moving on to our next presenter, which is Olaf van Hoenik, who is an advisor on waste materials at Rijkswaterstaat, the Dutch Ministry of Infrastructure and the Environment. Rijkswaterstaat is responsible for the design, construction, management and maintenance of the main infrastructure facilities in the Netherlands. They're a real forerunner in secular procurement and public procurement of innovation, so that's both of those things are very relevant, and they are also another partner in the PPI4waste project. Olaf will take us through some different ways of redefining waste and preventing it from entering the waste stream under the new circular economy package. I know Olaf is connecting with us by phone, and once again, my very clever technical colleague Philip will be helping with the presentation. So Olaf, I hope that you're still there and can hear us if you unmute yourself now.
I'm here. I hope you can hear me. Yes. I hope this is better. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. There's some background noise.
Yes.
Oh, that's much clearer now. Thank you. So if you just tell Philip when to move to the next slide, we have just got your first slide up now on the screen.
Okay. I will discuss what is waste, and then particularly in the Netherlands. Next slide, please. I have talked about the definition of waste, when a substance becomes waste, and when waste ceases to be waste. Next slide. The definition of waste is given in the Waste Framework Directive, Article 3, and this means when a holder discards a substance, is intends to discard it or is required to discard it, it is a waste. This is done in the Waste Framework Directive to give protection to the environment and human health, and to improve the circular economy. They give it much more words, but that's the target of the Waste Framework Directive. Mostly this is because waste can be hazardous, or people want to discard it so they don't have the cost to properly treat it. We want to follow it. Next slide. There is no clear definition of discard in the Waste Framework Directive, so there is a lot of discussion when is a substance waste. In the Netherlands, we try to give a better explanation here for this point, where we use the target of the Waste Framework Directive. So there must be no impact of the environment, and the use must be certain. This is new for the Netherlands, and we try to use it this way, give that people can objectively use it. I can give you an example when something is waste. Next slide. I have a tree in my garden, as you can see. This gives shades into my living room, and I want to have more sun. So I got a gardener. I asked if he will remove it. He was willing to do it for free because he has someone who wants to use the tree. So I can get rid of my tree for free. This is still the tree is still waste because my intention is to discard the tree as holder. And that's the most leading principle for definition of waste. What is the intention of the holder? Next slide, please. When there is production industry, there are a lot of products and also product residues. Some things you make when you are working, but there's not a real intention. And there's a question, is that waste or not? A good example is a coal-fired plant. It uses coal to produce electricity. The product is electricity then, and the residue is bottom ash. Is this bottom ash waste? To see if this is waste, next slide please. there are conditions given in the Waste Framework Directive in Article 5 to determine it. The most important ones are, is the use certain, condition A, and condition D, is the use lawful and is there no harmful use. For the bottom edge, we can know there are the use is certain, there are cement producers who want to use it, and there are no harmful use. There's no harm for the environment. This is tested. So we can say bottom ash is not a waste but a byproduct of producing electricity. Next slide, please. There's also waste that ceases to be waste. So you can use it again lawfully. How this is done? The conditions for this are given in Article 6 of the Waste Framework Directive. Here's also the substance must be commonly used, there must be a market, there must fulfill legal requirements. So who wants to have it must comply with the legislation for the user, and there must be no harm for the environment. I can have also an example for this. Next slide, please. There are lithium-ion accumulators of an electric vehicle. Once a vehicle crashes, as you can see here in the example, the whole car becomes a wreck and is waste, including all the components. What is done in the Netherlands at the moment by some parties is that they take those accumulators out of the car, they test the accumulators, and when they are okay, they will be reused for stationary energy storage. What they do then is, an example is airfield sites for energy storage. And those accumulators are no longer waste because they are lawfully used. There is someone who wants it. It's a common practice to do it, and there are no risks to the environment. Next slide, please. As you can see, there are two articles to define if something is waste or not. They are very similar. Both look if the use is certain or there is demand, and they focus on no overall adverse environmental effect. Only difference between them is one is when something becomes not a waste, and the other is when something that is a waste doesn't be anymore. And how this is going in practice, we can see in the next slide. All the cases when something is a waste or not must be done case by case, and it can be based on EU regulations for scrap metal, glass cullet, and copper scrap, or in national regulations, if they are, that varies particularly per member state. In the Netherlands, there's only one national regulation. I know in other lands, other member states, there are a lot more. Or you can do it individual based on the criteria given Article 5 or 6. Nice. I think this is my last slide. Yes. This gives you a quick overview of when a substance is a waste, when it becomes a waste, or when it ceases to be waste. I hope this was informative for you.
Thank you very much, Olaf. That was very interesting, and well done for doing it without being able to see the slides. I do have a couple of questions that we've received for you. I hope you have the time to answer them. The first one was actually regarding the two redefinitions that you describe under Article 5 and 6. So redefinition as a byproduct and redefinition, I can't remember the second one right now.
End of waste.
As end of waste. Do you actually have any concrete examples? I know the Netherlands is very advanced in this area. Are there any examples of this happening already in the Netherlands or anywhere else, in fact, that you know of?
To say if somewhere something is a waste or not anymore. Yes,
Yeah,
we use
so
these. The examples I give about the bottom edge of a coal-fired installation and the accumulators are real cases. So,
okay, so yeah, they are not just examples, but real cases that have happened.
Yes, and there are other cases. We do use it. I hope
Okay,
this
so,
gives.
Sorry, carry on.
I hope this is clear.
Yes, I mean, so this actually leads on to the next question we received, which is, do you think this ability to redefine waste in these ways will help in achieving the circular economy targets that Françoise talked about in terms of pulling things out of the waste stream before they enter it?
I don't think it will pull a lot more. It will give more prevention of waste. When someone wants to discard a substance, it will become waste. That will happen. But definitely the end of waste section can give, when you use waste, it can no, let's start again. For end of waste, when you use it, it gives more reliability to the user, so that they don't have waste, and that gives also less administrative burden. I think it will help the circular economy.
Okay, thank you very much. We've also received a question on food waste, but I think that may have rather been for Françoise. I hope it's okay. I will post that question in the interest group in the discussion forum afterwards and get Françoise to respond there. But thank you very much, Olaf. That was a really fascinating presentation, and it was very interesting to see what's already going on with these redefinitions.
Okay, thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye. So to move on to our third and final presenter, it's actually another chap from the Netherlands. Thijs Marten is an expert in waste reduction in the construction industry. He currently works for the Cradle to Cradle Innovation Institute, which is a non-profit organization responsible for overseeing the Cradle to Cradle product standard. The standard lays out criteria and requirements for continually improving what products are made of and how they are made. In the poll that we did, by far the most popular topic was how we can apply eco-labels within the waste industry. Cradle to Cradle is one of the bigger labels when it comes to circular economy. So we hope that Thijs is now going to take us through eco-labels, specifically the Cradle to Cradle eco-label, as this is the one that he knows the most about, and how they can be used within public procurement to help reduce waste. So thank you very much, Thijs. I hand over to you. I think you just need to unmute yourself.
I will do this for you, Thijs.
Are you hearing me or not?
Yes, I can hear you now. It's very low. If you can get closer to the microphone, please.
All right. Like, should this do it?
Yes, thanks.
All right. So I'll open my presentation. I think that you all see it. My name is Thijs Marten. I'm head responsible at the Cradle Products Innovation Institute. What we basically do at the Institute is we try to turn the making of things into a positive force for people, the economy and the planet, which basically means, if we look at it more closely, that we try to make consumption a good thing, adding to society, adding to the environment, adding to people's health, and making the concept of waste non-existent. Well, how do we do that? We have a philosophy, of course. We now work with a make-to-waste system. We extract materials, we manufacture them, we distribute them, install them, use them, and then dispose of them. In this extraction phase, of course, and also in the manufacturing, distribution, installation phase, we create a lot of waste. What we like to do at Cradle to Cradle is basically close the loop and make sure that we outphase the extraction phase and use the products we've manufactured again, and especially the materials we use in the manufacturing stage, the valuable materials, if you would. What that means in general is that we envision a world where waste is food, and where products are produced with 100% renewable energy, where all materials that we use are safe, where products and production systems replenish natural systems instead of take away some of the important parts of our natural systems, and where consumption actually is a good thing. If we then look at what we've heard before, and we look at how we want to achieve, for instance, 60–65% recycling. From the perspective of Cradle to Cradle, this means actually doing less bad. If we think we want to achieve, or we set as a goal that we want to achieve 80% recycling, for us that means that our ultimate goal is doing 20% bad. So doing 20% not recycling, and for us, doing less bad is not a very ambitious or inspiring goal. So that's why we set out a certification schemes that help product manufacturers, but also public procurement officers, city governments, and so forth and so on, to work with in order to reduce waste and make the concept of waste obsolete. Now, how do we do that? We score product manufacturers on 5 quality categories: material health, material reutilization, renewable energy, water stewardship, and social fairness. All of these quality categories combined should lead to an ideal product. So people may not actually score 100% on each of these quality categories, but the ideal product that we produce within our scheme, and that is Cradle to Cradle inspired, or in the end Cradle to Cradle certified, is a product with 100% positive energy, meaning that when we try to recycle stuff 100%, then we want to recycle good materials, not materials that are bad for our environment, as we mentioned before, bad for environmental or human health, that these materials are actually actively returned to the industry or nature, that 100% of the purchased electricity and direct on-site emissions is renewably sourced. Well, the ideal product would mean that water leaving the production plant would be cleaner than when it comes into the production plant, and by doing so, we try to eliminate the concept of waste, as well as try to add a social component into the production process by trying to control and look at the social implications of the production process. Quickly going back then to the quality categories, what you see is how we think about waste and how we want to add to make or eliminating waste from our society is basically from a design perspective. So we think that we should start designing end products that are designed to be reused, are designed with 100% material health, and then within that production process, we do not take anything from the earth or from our society, but we actually add something, because we add cleaner water, we add energy that is coming from the sun or the wind, and we add projects that stimulate social cohesion, for instance. So that's a different thing. Now, well, how do we do this? What is the implication of our program, and how do people use certified products within our program to make sure they have less waste? I think a very good example, that's the example I will use today, is the built environment. Is where people, a lot of waste comes from the built environment, as you might all know. But people, when they start implementing products that are certified within building products, within building projects, they might eliminate the total concept of waste within buildings. So say if we have 100% certified materials within a building, then ideally all of these materials will be can be reused in the long term and are produced without doing bad to our environment. So without the concept of waste. Of course, this is a very tricky thing, but we now see inspired projects that work like this in the Netherlands, for instance at Park 2020 near Schiphol area in Amsterdam, but also at the City Hall of Venlo, where Cradle to Cradle inspired projects have been initiated. In the end, of course, these projects are not compiled of 100% good products committing to our standard, but they are inspired to that. So what we like to achieve is really support a transition towards a cradle-to-cradle society in which we do 100% good, and this is all part of that. So our mission is basically to broaden, deepen, and scale up the implementation of cradle-to-cradle certified products. If you then look at on a European level, how can our initiative support procurement officers? Well, what we would like to do and assist people with is really give people insights into our standards. So what does 100% good healthy materials mean? What does recyclability mean? Which companies are front runners? What can we learn from them? What does this mean for my own procurement guidelines? What are the best practices? And share that with each other. Well, if we look a little bit further, Google, for instance, also has adopted our program and initiated their own healthy materials program, where basically cradle to cradle is the golden standard when it comes to healthy materials for their procurement guidelines. What they try to do with this tool is first load in all certified products that have very low waste impact, and use them as our own procurement guidelines, and in the future try to make this public so that all people have an understanding of what the waste impact of built environment materials are. Well, actually, that was the examples I wanted to use for today. I've added some links that people can look at, and I would also like to encourage you to ask questions about our standard and what we do and what it means for this landscape of stakeholders that we're talking to today. So thank you for now, and I hope to hear from you now or later.
Thank you very much, Thijs. We have received quite a few questions again. So first of all, a question we just received, which is, how is land use reflected in your label?
Can the question specify a little bit further? Because, for instance, I think what we try to understand is how is land use, what is the life cycle impact of a product? Maybe that's the question. Or I don't really.
I can try to get more input.
Okay.
From Nicole Polsterer. We can try to unmute you. The question came from you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think the initiative is great. It's but as the presenter mentioned, we're trying to move to 100% sustainability. So even if if we're able to recycle 100% all products we use, our demand and increasing demand will still be higher than the resources we currently have. So we're importing a lot of resources that are actually driving land use somewhere else, and we're importing this land footprint. So is there anything that you're doing about that?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to, if I understand correctly, how does the standard relate to minimizing the impact of a growing world population while taking into consideration the fact that we would like to do 100% good. So we will always need more resources to feed this population, right?
Well,
so
feed and also use, like you know, like in construction, as you're primarily concerned with.
Yeah, so for us, it's always a combination of doing less bad, more good in that sense, and trying to be as effective and efficient as possible. The one doesn't exclude the other. That's our prime position. We try to harmonize more sort of efficiency initiatives with our philosophy. How this is incorporated in the standard, it's not, because our philosophy is that if we do 100% good, then we basically outphase this question. Of course, that's a little bit utopian if you look at the current situation. But our perspective is, if you set your goals to doing 100% good, we will have the greatest impact on making a change. So I think theoretically we don't really answer your question at the moment, or sorry, theoretically we answer your question with our philosophy. However, if you look at it from a practical perspective, we are confronted with the impact of a growing world population, and not everybody has the same opportunities to work with our standards or be as innovative as the producers we work with.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a slightly broader question for you now, which is, in fact, almost takes a step back from this really, and just asks, what is the added value that is brought by a certification in supporting circular procurement more generally, in terms of, obviously, it's quite a complex process to go through, so it's quite heavy input in terms of at least time and probably money. What extra value does it bring to go through this process, in your opinion?
Yeah, firstly, of course, the certificate says something about the third-party verification of a process. So what we try to do is take sort of the role of some more governmental institutions to really make sure that people comply to our standard, and do that via a third-party position that we have. The certificate itself is meant to communicate to the end consumer, and what we see is that for consumers to become more and more aware. For instance, in the food industry, we see that people really would like to know what's in their products, and we think that interest of end consumers in what is in my product, what does it mean for my environment, what does it mean for my children, that question will become more and more important, and we try to feed these critical consumers by saying, look, this is what it means, this is what standard stands for, and there's no other standard that says something about the circularity or material health of the product than our standard does.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have time for just one last question, I hope, which is a little bit more specific. In fact, it relates to the project you mentioned at the City Hall in Venlo. And I was just asking, if you compared this to a normal building construction, do you have any statistics, or do you know what kind of an impact using the certification and the certified products had on minimizing waste? So if you were to,
Yeah, what I think the question can be, it's not a question I can answer directly because it's still, we're finishing the city of Venlo is still finishing the building and I don't have the numbers yet. However, what you do see is that over the entire building column, the certification, the use of certified products adds a lot of value to the built environment as such. So we see that architects can identify themselves with a cradle-to-cradle philosophy and get cradle-to-cradle inspired and thereby get better projects. We see that the rent, for instance, for cradle-to-cradle inspired buildings can be a little bit higher because people who use certified products within buildings sort of say, look, my employees are now working in a healthy environment, they will become less sick and therefore become more productive. So it's fair enough to say that that there's an impact there. Specifically on waste, as I mentioned before, I think we certify products, so the impact on waste produced will be measured on the production at the production site, and we have very clear examples, impact studies that are shown on our website, what the impact on the waste production part is for these producers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think that's everything for now. So thank you, Thijs, and thank you everyone for attending. As I mentioned, there were a couple of questions there that were posed to Françoise, but unfortunately she had to leave quite quickly after her presentation. So we will post those in the forum and try and get an answer there. I think if you have any more questions relating to these presentations, please do go to the discussion group in the procurement forum and feel free to ask them there. We'll try and make sure that our presenters will get back to you, or definitely someone else, I'm sure, will respond. Finally, we have recorded this webinar, so providing that the recording is clear enough, we'll be making a recording available for those who maybe weren't able to attend the whole thing, and we will be posting the presentations as well, once again, in the discussion group in the forum. So I really encourage you, if you haven't joined up already, to definitely join up, have a look around. If you have any problems with joining, just get in touch with myself or Estella. And please do feel free to go there with any questions or thoughts or comments you might have. It's really quite an interesting and interactive group. As I mentioned right at the beginning, our next activity within the PPI4waste project will be this International State-of-the-Art workshop in Bilbao at the end of April. This is actually preceded by 4 national Meet the Market workshops, whose information will once again be posted within the forum. So for all of this information, please do go straight there, straight to the discussion group, and I look forward to hopefully seeing more of you again in the future and meeting some of you face to face. Yeah, I think that's it from me. Thank you very much.